a he is a beloved chef and renowned person in our Hollywood community. He's touted by the New York Times as the Ponce de Leon of New Florida cooking. He is a James Beard Award winner chef with a passionate commitment to local fresh ingredients. Food and Wine magazine has named Chef Allen as one of the top best chefs in America. We are so glad you are here tonight to share this experience as he presents, and we can learn about the wonderful world of chocolate as Chef Allen shares some of his chocolate recipes from his latest cookbook, Green Figs and Lionfish, Sustainable Caribbean Cooking. So we're glad you registered for tonight. Please note that we are recording tonight's session, and we would like to welcome Chef Allen to our show.
Well, a pleasure. Hi. Glad to be here in the neighborhood in Emerald Hills, and Stirling Road Library is a wonderful library, and kind of have really wonderful people, nice people in the neighborhood that utilize it, that support it. And I love to be a part of that, part of the neighborhood. And, I think we've got a great neighborhood here. Lots of people out on the streets, lots of people supporting the neighborhood stores and restaurants, and kind of, it's great. We have a beautiful park, and we've got a beautiful area. So it's really a pleasure to be a part of the community and kind of be a little surprise in the neighborhood, kind of things that I do, as a restaurateur, as a chef, as a restaurant consultant, as a resort consultant, do a lot of wonderful things. So today we're going to talk about kind of the secrets of chocolate. I figured for Valentine's Day, since it's coming up, people love chocolate. They love being involved with chocolate. Who doesn't like getting chocolate for Valentine's Day? Who doesn't like sticking your finger into a pot of chocolate or a pan of chocolate? So that's kind of what I wanted to show you, a little bit of the story of chocolate and where it comes from, and kind of some of the background history to it, and kind of how to make a really wonderful, deep, dark chocolate mousse. I think sometimes the easy things are overlooked in cooking, and this is kind of one of the little secrets that I wanted to share with you, is kind of how to make a chocolate mousse that is really not that hard, not that many ingredients. I think I've shared the ingredients with you. Hopefully, maybe some of you are going to cook along with me on this, which would be really wonderful. And if you do, I'll take questions of that as we're going along down the road a little bit later in the hour. But for right now, let's talk about chocolate and kind of where chocolate comes from. So many people think that chocolate is just kind of a chocolate bar, and there's nothing wrong with a chocolate bar. Who doesn't want to rip open a nice piece of chocolate, kind of open it up. Nice, okay? Nice piece of chocolate. And kind of tell you a little bit of a difference, because this is actually chocolate, this handmade chocolate that I make out in St. Lucia. I consult for a resort called Jade Mountain. And this is an organic farm that I work with the farmers for organic chocolate. We have about 30 acres of organic farm and about 1,500 different cacao trees. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a story of the cacao. Here you can see is some cacao. It grows right on the tree bark itself. Okay, so there again, here's another picture of it. There's a couple different varieties of cacao bean. This here is a Forasterio. A Forasterio is a really wonderful bean. It's got a lot of character. And one of the interesting things about the cocoa beans, just like wine, grapes, just like coffee beans, the microclimates that they grow in really affect and really can change the flavor. So the farm is actually on organic soil off a volcano. So we've got some really wonderful flavors that go there. Here, that's another one. This is a Trinidadeo bean, and that Trinidadeo bean has also some really nice flavors, nuances. It's a little bit more earthy, a little bit more rich in the cocoa butter. So kind of utilize that as well. And then here, this is a criollo bean. Oh, I skipped over that. That's a criollo bean. And what happens is we crack the criollo bean and all the beans, and it has these little seeds inside. Those little seeds that you see inside are the cacao beans. Okay, so here's a whole harvest of the cocoa beans. And actually, so what happens is the harvest is cut open with a machete, and just kind of get a look at it. So with a machete, you're cracking the beans and sorting out all of the cacao with that. And you can see the cacao that has a really beautiful sweetness to it that surrounds it. That's what the cacao looks like. And that is the sweetness that actually gets fermented. So that just kind of, as it starts to ferment, you'll see it starts to ferment, and then that's a fermentation box. So you have a wood shovel and a wood box, and it ferments for about 7-8 days. And that white substance is what helps it to ferment, and then it dries. This is our drying racks out in St. Lucia. And what that is a little house that you put the beans on, and when it's daytime, you pull out the rack, and when it's evening time or when it's raining, you push it back into the house. And so that kind of gives you the drying of that. So here you can see the cacao beans in that process. So from there, as you can see, I've got my cacao beans right here. Okay, so kind of the translation from St. Lucia, from the farm. This is the way cacao is transferred all over the world. You get it in cacao beans. And so these cacao beans, there's several different types of beans from different farms, are then roasted to make the chocolate. They're roasted and then cracked. After they're cracked, they become nibs, and the inside flesh is those cocoa nibs, which people love. This is 100% pure cacao, and before it has it's ground, it's just cracked like that. And what happens is you take that cocoa and grind it. We hand grind it. We have like 10-pound grinding wheels that go on the machine, and it's hand ground, small batch hand ground cacao, and it grinds down to a liquid. It takes about 48 hours actually to grind down, but these have so much cocoa butter in it. The nibs naturally melt after they grind, they melt. And as they melt, then you have a chocolate liqueur that you add sugar to. So that's kind of what happens with this is the beans go from nib into liqueur, into sugar added to it, and you get a bar. So a couple different types of bars. I make a 92% bar, which is almost no sugar at all. This was a 70% bar, which has 70% cacao and 30% sugar. And then this is a 60%. So these are, small bars, and, that's kind of, we make all of the chocolate into everything at the resort, from chocolate croissants to chocolate tea for breakfast, onto chocolate ice cream and desserts and turn down service and amenities, and all the wonderful things. We also do this deep dark chocolate mousse, and that's kind of what I'm going to share with you in just a few moments with that. So this chocolate liqueur melts down, and then it gets tempered. The idea of tempering a chocolate is so that you have it what happens is that you temper, which means you bring it up to temperature and lower it and then set it. And what happens is the crystals of the chocolate align. And when you have these chocolates aligned, then you have really a wonderful aromatic chocolate. And what you can do is listen to this. Okay, so when you have that snap of a chocolate, that's kind of what you want to make sure you have, and that's when it's tempered. So that's the art of tempering it. And then you can make anything that you want. If you want to make chocolate truffles. So I'm going to take this, and also I'm going to take our 92%. So I got 70 and 92% that I'm going to blend together for this chocolate mousse. And so just going to take this. For this mousse, if you wanted to, you can actually do chocolate morsels, but I would try to use a bittersweet chocolate. They sell now 60, 70% bittersweet chocolates. So I've got these, and what I'm going to do is just kind of take it and cut through it a little bit, just to make smaller chunks so it melts a little bit easier. Okay. And it just takes a moment to just kind of, you want to have a heavy knife, so that, when I say a heavy knife, so that you're cutting with the back of the blade, right near the foot of the handle, so that it cuts through. You want to try to utilize the pressure of the knife properly in that. So we're going to cut this, and it works pretty nicely. And it just takes a moment. So really what I've got here is the 2 bars. Each bar is about 3 ounces. So I've got 6 ounces of chocolate that I'm cutting up here. Okay, and so that's kind of that. And I'm going to take that and put it into a bowl to get that ready. Okay, and so I've got the chocolate set, and we're going to be utilizing that in just a few moments. Before I make the mousse, I actually want to show you a little bit on melting chocolate, and to make a little container for it, or like a little chocolate deco. So I'm going to bring this over to here. You guys can see that from a distance, but so what I have is acetate. Acetate is like a little clear wrap. Okay, this is a roll of acetate, and it's used like when you're wrapping around a cake or something. You can hardly see it, but you'll start to see it as I get into this. So I've cut a piece of acetate, and I'm going to put this onto the board. And I've also got a little bit of melted chocolate, the same type of melted chocolate. And what I'm going to do is just run it along the acetate. And this is just like that. A little offset spatula for this. Just a nice clean run of that. Okay, and so what you actually have as you pick this up, now you'll be able to see the acetate there. And what I do is I have a ring mold, a little small ring mold that I take and set, and then carefully kind of turn the acetate inside out and set that in the mold in there. And this I'm going to put into the refrigerator, and we'll take that out a little bit later, and you'll see what that looks like.
Alan, we're being asked, where do you get the acetate?
You can get it online. One of my favorite places to get some of these little things is a place called Culinary Convenience, which is up in Fort Lauderdale off of Andrews. It's not far from us, just on the north side of like the Andrews and off of US 1. Culinary Convenience has some great things for the kitchen, kind of everything that you need, from probably some of the best knives around, the acetate, the ring molds, pastry molds, all those sort of little things that you need and want in the kitchen. So definitely a place to know about. And if you do go there, the owner's name is Aaron. Let them know I sent you there. He'll give you a hug. I don't know if he'll give you a discount, but he'll give you a hug. He's also from the area. So he's a small businessman, but he's got a really wonderful culinary store.
Thank you.
Really, really neat to see. So with that, so I've got my chocolate. And so I'm going to start off. Usually chocolate has to be melted somewhere along the way. So I'm going to start off this chocolate. I'm going to bring a little water. You don't want to mix chocolate and water. Okay, chocolate and water is a no-no. It seizes up. Okay, I will tell you what you can mix chocolate with. One of my favorites is chocolate with port. Okay, chocolate with port is awesome. You can cook with it, you can drink it. Okay, the matching of chocolate and port is like one of those matches in heaven. So you kind of really a wonderful flavor. I also like to, if I'm tasting and kind of having a good time, even a brandy is really nice with a bittersweet chocolate. So the port has the sweetness. It's a fortified wine. I love that to go with chocolate, with tasting chocolates. So what I'm doing here is I'm heating, a water bath basically in this pot, and the water bath. So I'm going to be working inside the bowl. The water's underneath with that. Now I'm not going to add the chocolate yet, but what I'm going to do in the bowl here, you can see into the bowl there. So that's good. I'm going to add in some sugar with a pinch of salt. Okay, and then I've got some eggs. I'm going to use the eggs for the mousse. And so with this, I'm going to use the egg whites on the side for later. So I'm going to take the egg white here and put an egg yolk in. Then do the same thing here. This is going to take 4 egg yolks. So just place that in there. It's only going to take 2 whites. So I'm going to separate these 2 sets of whites. One for the mix that I'm going to put in afterwards, and the other 2 egg whites for my breakfast in the morning. So I've got 3 eggs, and then also I've got the 4th egg coming up over here. Oh, if it drops in, you just scoop it out, not a problem, and that goes in. Okay, so into that as well, now I'm going to add in a little bit of coffee or espresso. So this water is boiling. You want to not boil it too rapidly. I'm going to turn that down just so it stays to a simmer. Okay, and I'm going to let that cook. When I say cook, it's raw egg, and so that you don't want to have raw egg yolk in this. So we're going to take it and whisk the sugar, eggs, and coffee, and the pinch of salt, and sort of make a custard out of that. This is kind of how you make a custard, if you ever made custard before. So what's happened is going to be, it's going to about double in volume. So it takes just a moment. You don't have to whisk wildly on this, but you have to do whisk it so it gets a little foamy. Water's heating up, and so on this. And what you want to do, just make sure the egg is cooked enough. If you're not sure, you kind of heat it to 160 degrees. Now, you can't really tell 160 by just looking at it. So what happens is you get a little thermometer, okay, a little cooking thermometer, digital, okay, and like here, it starts off at about 75 degrees, which is my kitchen temperature. And you want to make sure the thermometer doesn't go on the bottom of the bowl, okay? The bottom of the bowl will get the water temperature. You're just putting it into the mixture. So right now it's mixing at about 140 degrees. Okay, so just going to kind of mix that through. It starts to get foamy and starts to get thick a little bit. start to check it out again. We're at about 153, 158. Gets a little thicker, 162. 162 is a good number. So I'm going to take it off the heat because you don't want it to overcook. You don't want scrambled eggs. Okay, but you can see how it's thickened up. Got a lot more texture to it. I'm just going to whisk this together a little bit. So now you've got that nice creamy look to it. And to that, now it's almost custard-like. Now I'm going to take the chocolate and put it in to that mixture. Okay, it's nice and warm. So chocolate melts at about 92 degrees. So this is not going to take long. You just kind of let it go in there and melt a little bit. It starts to melt up and just softly kind of moving it. It's chunky, so it's going to take a moment to just come together. But sort of if you make a ganache, usually you take like heavy cream and warm that and pour it over the chocolate in the same sort of fashion, melting the chocolate, kind of bringing it to temperature like that. And as you can see, the mixture is now starting to come together. I'm still melting some chocolate. It's going to start to look really rich. I'll tell you what, this is going to start to look really wonderful. Okay, and it's going to start to still melt a little bit. We can give it a little bit more heat to help that melt down. So the stove is off, but I'm just putting it over the warm water so that it starts to melt.
Alan,
And
can they purchase your chocolate? What chocolate are you? Why don't you tell them what chocolate you're using?
this chocolate, this is my Emerald Estate chocolate. And so I combined a 70% and a 92%
And
chocolate.
where can they purchase the chocolate?
That chocolate you can actually buy online, or else you can go out to St. Lucia and actually see it and experience it. But we do sell it online. In St. Lucia, the farm is just, it's really wonderful, and you can go out and sort of experience it as well, which is really neat. And kind of get the whole being a bar experience, which is really, really interesting. But you can use a nice chocolate, the better the chocolate, the better off of anything that you're going to make with the chocolate. So this is kind of nice and rich and thickened. And so just going to make sure it's smoothed out and smoothed around.
Alan, I'm being asked if your chocolate is dairy-free. Is it parve?
The chocolate that I make has 2 ingredients: cacao and cane sugar. So there's nothing in it. We don't add anything in. So yes, it is parve. Yes, it is organic like that. I don't add any milk product. I don't add any butter product to it. That's kind of really what I love about the chocolate that we make. And so that the only differential is the amount of sugar we add. So when I say 92%, that means 92% and only 8% sugar, or 70% is 70% cacao and 30% sugar. Okay, or so that's what it is. When you're talking about, so we don't actually make any milk chocolate out there at all.
Thank you. And the website, what is the site where they can buy your chocolate?
Emerald Estate Chocolate.
Emerald Estate Chocolate. Thank you.
Sure. So this I'm going to let just cool down to room temperature. And now we're going to get back to the eggs. Okay, so we've got 2 egg whites that I've saved here. And this is a little difficult to do by hand. So I've got a little hand mixer, which is fine. So the hand mixers, because we're going to whip the egg white. I don't know if you can hear me over my mixer, but
just the 2 egg whites that are there. And you can start to see it foaming and coming up. So as it starts to foam, it'll start to get a lot of nice, wonderful volume to it.
What I like to do is put a pinch of salt, just really a pinch of salt into that. As we're gaining volume, it helps it give volume to it.
Okay, so you can start to see that. As it gets almost to a soft peak,
Okay, so you can see it's almost there. What I'm going to do is add the other half of the sugar. So I add half of the sugar to the first half, and now I'm going to add sugar into this.
just to sweeten this a little bit. So it's actually only 2 tablespoons that I've added into the egg white and 2 tablespoons that went into the egg yolk to make the custard. So here you can start to see how this comes together. And here we're going to make this into softer eggs, almost like a marshmallow consistency. Okay, so kind of really nice. This is actually how you make souffle.
Okay, you whip up the egg whites and you fold it into a mixture that has egg yolks in it. So here we've got the egg whites, the chocolate, and I also have a little bit of whipped cream that we've also have. So this is what the mousse comes down to, it kind of this combination. So first off, I'm going to add in the whipped cream into the chocolate. So the chocolate, I've got a little bit. So usually I add a nice dollop to it. Let's just put that aside here so it doesn't go flying. And here starts to thin down the chocolate, but it enriches it. I'll tell you what, that whipped cream is whipped cream, heavy cream whipped, but I don't have any sweetener in that, okay? So no sweetener in that, but you can start to see this come together. And now I'm going to add the rest of the whipped cream into it. So it's a cup, half a cup of whipped cream whipped. Okay, and it starts to lighten it a little bit, but it also becomes really wonderful and creamy. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so that's, yeah, here, stick your fingers in. So I'm gonna clear this off of the whisk because I don't want to use the whisk any longer for this. So I'm gonna put the whisk aside and go to the spatula, because when you add egg whites, you don't want to bust them up. Okay, so I'm sorry, I have to lick my finger.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm back to the spatula. Try to work the bowl clean so you bring it all together like that, meaning around the edge, just coming around the edge and bring it all to the center. Okay, and then we're going to start to add the egg whites, and also the egg whites, now they're kind of marshmallowy, in two batches. First, a little bit just to kind of mix it in, and this is called folding. So when you're folding egg whites in, you don't want to bust the egg whites. You want to keep them soft and light and fluffy, because that's kind of what the mousse is all about. is that fluff. And so that we've just kind of add that in, just turning it over lightly on itself, turning it over lightly onto itself like that. And then we're going to take the rest of the egg white, which has just that little bit of sugar in it. Okay, and come back to that and kind of just softly fold that in, going around the edge of the bowl and turning it over, turning it over, turning the bowl, turning it over. Okay, and just kind of being patient to get it incorporated, because this is really where you want to have that creamy, wonderful, moussey sort of texture that you don't want to, you want to keep it light, full of flavor, full of that chocolate goodness in there, and sort of like that. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. You don't want to over mix it. So just so you can see, that's kind of what it looks like with that. So it's really fluffy, really light. So with that, what I'm going to do now, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just kind of not lick the spoon, but turn the spoon into that.
Save the spoon for later.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so now we can take this and we can take a spoon. Okay, so different ways of presenting. Okay, you've got the mousse going in, and you want to chill this a little bit, but kind of just enough there. Okay, and we can do that. So we've got the mousse going on there, or you can use a little sundae glass. Okay, here, if you didn't see, just kind of a nice presentation. A little sundae glass also with that, which is really beautiful. But I want to come back to the mold that I made. Okay, so I've got a couple of molds here. Okay, so when you pop it out, what happens is you've got this little bit of a chocolate
Beautiful.
cup that you made with the acetate, taking the acetate away from the chocolate. So to do that, what I do is leave the acetate on for the moment. Okay, and then going to take it and aim it right in there. Okay, and set that up and get the mousse right into that acetate. So with that, I actually have one that I've prepared with the mousse, with the acetate, with the nice chocolate ring on it. And then also, obviously, we should garnish with a little bit of whipped cream on top of that. Okay, and save a little bit of whipped cream for the tops of these. You know, or let me move that over. Got these, which are little sundae glasses with the whipped cream. Okay, then what we probably can do is take a little bit more of our chocolate and do a little bit of a garnish on it. So for garnish, there's a couple of things to do. You can take just a nice spear of chocolate and put a nice chunk in there. Or what we can do is take it and kind of shave it, shave the chocolate, and kind of just put some chocolate shavings on it. So kind of some fun stuff, just kind of finishing. kind of, you really want to make sure you finish things. The little details that you put into your cooking, your finishing, that's really what kind of makes it special when you're cooking. So here you can see with the little bit of the tower, the chocolate mousse tower. Here we've got the sundaes with the chocolate and the whipped cream. Here we've got it, as I suggest, with just a little bit more elegant glass, but it still has all the wonderful flavors with that. So kind of really easy. I hope somebody is going to make some of this for Valentine's Day, because that's kind of what it is. Chocolate is very interesting because chocolate also is healthy for you, believe it or not, if you're not using too much sugar. And that's really why I suggested a dark chocolate, because a dark chocolate is healthy. It's kind of it has endorphins. It releases your endorphins as you're eating, so that it kind of relaxes you as well as makes you feel good. It's a healthy type of thing to enjoy, kind of on a daily basis. So long as you don't overdo it. It's not candy. Okay, that's one of the things that people kind of get mixed up on. They think chocolate's candy and it's a candy bar. And this I'm talking about fine chocolate. I'm talking about having a nice piece of chocolate that has aromatics, that has flavor, that you can taste where it comes from. You can taste the nuances of the bean. You can taste all the essences that from a good fermentation, from a good place where it's grown, so that a good bean to bar chocolate, whether it's my type of chocolate from Emerald Estate in St. Lucia, or, there are a number of other chocolatiers that are making really wonderful chocolate. And that's really kind of what I encourage you to do, is try to find some wonderful chocolate, because it really makes a major difference with that. So I'd love to take any questions from you that you have.
I have several for you.
Okay.
They've been waiting patiently. Everybody's applauding you, Chef. It's just.
All right. Thank you.
I read the drool is dripping, but we're applauding. People are asking, is there a problem from a health standpoint that the egg whites are not cooked?
Not really. The egg whites are, I know some people get nervous about egg whites. The yolks is really where you have the problem. That's why we cook the yolks. Egg whites, you could use more of a cooked meringue for this if you wanted to, but very traditional for the egg, for the mousse, is to have a raw egg white that goes into it. And millions of French are eating it, I'll tell you what.
Thank you. Next question. Is there sugar added to the whipped cream?
No, I did not add sugar to the whipped cream. Okay, so that the sugar was in the egg whites to help enrichen it and make it fluffy. And I have sugar in the egg yolks because we're making sort of like a chocolate custard to begin with. So I have the sugars in there. You actually can sweeten the whipped cream. I didn't sweeten it because I actually like the differential. So you have the whipped cream, which has no sweetener in it. You have the chocolate and then the mousse, so that it's a lot more interesting as you're eating it. You have those textures and flavors with it.
Yes, and someone just asked, what about adding candied chestnuts to this?
Absolutely, you can add candied chestnuts. You can add pistachios to that. I use coffee for this, but like I said, if you wanted to use port for making this, or brandy or cognac, all are different variations to it, which will really be very wonderful.
Oh, that sounds delicious. I think you're going to be getting company over in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
Someone is asking, if you get to St. Lucia, can you get to Emerald Estates?
Yes, it is part of the hotel, and you'd have to request to go there. especially for the moment with COVID, you probably cannot go. We do have very strong protocols at the resort, so that guests of the resorts can go to Emerald Estate and see it. Right now, we would not take outside people. Hopefully, towards the end of the year when we all get vaccines and this COVID dies down a little bit, we can, but usually, on request, or let me know if you're going out there and I can arrange a private tour for you at the estate. Because at the estate, not only do we have our cacao trees, but we also have mango trees, papaya, guava. We grow lots of herbs, turmeric, ginger, spices. Really, just it's an amazing place that the farm is, because it really supports all the restaurants at the resort.
Wonderful. And I think you are going to be getting some people who are just going to be knocking on your door to come over there. So you also, I just want to make sure I answer all the questions. Could you add the port or another liqueur to this mousse?
Yes, that's what I was saying. Instead of like adding the coffee or splitting the coffee is adding a little bit of bitterness to it. So it adds a little acidity and bitterness. So if I added 2 ounces of coffee or espresso, you could use like an ounce of port or an ounce of brandy, or you can do old brandy or port or Cointreau or Grand Marnier. I mean, this would be awesome with Grand Marnier, and so you have that. Grand Marnier is an orangey liqueur, which is nice. You could do it with a framboise with chocolate, raspberry with framboise would be beautiful. We could take that and put a couple of fresh raspberries on this. That's awesome. You can garnish and, kind of take a recipe and make it your own. And that's really what I encourage you to do, is kind of use a recipe for its beginnings and then take it to where the flavors that you like.
I think you've opened the challenge for a couple more courses with you, a couple more presentations, which brings me to a question that I'm going to ask you in front of everybody. We just think you are absolutely the best. You have such a fan club here. Would you consider in the future doing another series for us?
Uh-oh. Yes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That is, we are thrilled. We are thrilled. You're such
Someone has a hand up.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry. Who has their hand up?
you have to unmute. If
Yeah.
let me ask her to unmute.
Yes.
Okay, maybe.
Here, I just asked her to unmute.
I think it was me. It was Brenda, and I was just saying, "Yay, yay, yay!"
Oh, okay.
Yay, another class! Yay!
We couldn't agree more. We couldn't agree more.
Yay!
Fern,
All
I
right.
have a question for Chef Allen. Chef Allen, from social media, I see that you've been involved with different initiatives to help local chefs. Do you want to talk a little about that?
Sure. Well, you know that one of my favorite things is to fight childhood hunger. And kind of, first off, I will say that this past weekend with Super Bowl, for a lot of years, I will admit, 29 years, I've been doing Taste the NFL. The night before Super Bowl, in the Super Bowl city, we would get 32 chefs, one from every NFL city, together and do a big fundraiser, about 1,000 people or more, and raise money for hunger. And here in Miami, I've chaired Share Our Strength, No Kid Hungry, for many, many years as well. And there I get about 50 chefs together for a big event. With COVID, we can't do these big events. With COVID, the restaurants are now hurting. So I couldn't even ask a restaurateur, I could not ask a chef to give a donation for raising money for feeding South Florida or feeding the food bank or some of the other food banks, because they're struggling. They're really struggling. So I work with an agency to put a book together of recipes in Miami. So it's a Miami cookbook. Every chef gave one recipe, and the money that from purchasing that book is going to go back to the COVID hurt restaurants. So what we're doing is raising money for the restaurants because it's kind of impossible to survive, even if they're open and even if they have outdoor seating at 50%. I mean, it's kind of crazy time of year. So that we need to help as much as possible. Supporting the restaurants, supporting them with to go or to using Grubhub or Uber Eats or anything like that to support them, but also by buying the cookbook, which you can find online, the Miami COVID cookbook. It's available and it has some wonderful recipes. Or you can go see it on my Instagram, and you can click on through my Instagram, which is Chef Alan Susser.
Thank you.
And you guys also should follow me on my Instagram. I always have recipes going on. I've got a couple of different things with sustainable seafood. I'm actually doing. I set up and organized this group called Slow Fish. Slow Fish is a group that is a nationwide group, and I've started a Miami chapter to kind of talk about sustainable seafood, taking care of our waterways, taking care of our oceans, caring about where the fish comes from. And so that what I'm doing on the first Wednesday of each month, I'm having a live conversation about that on Instagram Live TV with that. So you can watch for that coming up each month. And we're going to have different people that I'm going to interview and talk to on that, just to kind of keep the conversation going, because we really, I love sustainable seafood for the idea of taking care of our oceans and taking care of the food that we eat. So that's kind of that conversation. You can see that there as well.
Thank you, Alan. We will share that address with everybody. And if that's Slowfish on Instagram,
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? I see, how many do you have there? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 35. If we all share it, and do you have 35 spoons?
Here you go.
I'm coming over. I'm walking across the course.
I know. There's probably about 35 spoonfuls. So by the spoonful, we each, I'll put it out front so you can just bring your own spoon and you can taste.
I'm sure there will
1 spoon per person.
Yes. I'm being asked, what's the address?
Only if you see me walking in the morning. I mean,
yes, we will. We love seeing
a lot of you probably do see me walking through the neighborhood. I walk every morning and afternoon.
People are actually.
That's how I can eat my mousse and stay slim and trim. Wonderful. Not really, but
that looks beautiful. And we want to thank you. Well, if everybody will stay on after Chef Alan leaves and starts cleaning up his kitchen or getting his family to eat.
Right.
We're going to have a silent auction honoring actually Chef Alan's book. So thank you, Chef. It's been wonderful seeing you. Any closing remarks, Hannah?
No, except we look forward to the next series, and we hope everyone will stay on and do a silent auction. Fern will explain how we're going to do it. Chef Alan, thank you for donating a copy of your book. We've also had a complaint that your book is not found in the Broward County Library system, and we're gonna try to resolve that.
Yeah, well, who do we have to say about that? That's the book, Green Fig and Lionfish. So let's get it in the library. What do we need to do?
Yes.
We're gonna work on it. It'll be up.
Work on it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, bid high. There's lots of great recipes. It's a beautiful book inside. Just so you know, There's some really great,
Beautiful
great,
illustration.
colorful, delicious
Wow.
recipes. So you're in for a treat. That's what the lionfish looks like.
Oh, my God.
Ooh.
See that?
Beautiful.
There you go. All right. Have a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay safe. Happy
All
Valentine's
right.
Day to
A
you. and your
pleasure.
family.
Thanks.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Okay, now I'd like to share this with you. As you know, Chef Alan was kind enough to donate a signed copy of his book, Green Fig and Lionfish. It's a wonderful, wonderful gift. It's a wonderful memory of these recipes. It is signed on the inside and it says, "To the friends of the Stirling Road Branch Library, eat sustainably, best of cooking, Chef Alan." So we are putting together right now a silent auction for anybody who wants to purchase and make a donation to the library, helping our community by buying this wonderful book featuring Chef Alan's recipes. We are thrilled to have had him, and I really put him on the spot to do another series, but he is going to do it. So we would love for you to make a bid on this book. Send your bids to Stirling Library Friends at gmail.com. And if you do so, Hannah, are we going to be able to announce the receiver tonight or not?
Yeah, we'll send an email to the highest bidder at 9 o'clock this evening. So everyone should make sure to have their bids in by 9.
Okay. All right. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Hannah for working as hard as she does to make the Friends and the library such a success. It's a joy to work with this organization. It's a joy to have all of you share this with us tonight. Please make a silent bid. You heard what Chef Alan does for the community. On behalf of him, let's do our share by helping the library by putting a bid in for this wonderful book. I want to say thank you to all. Stay safe, stay away, come to the library. Oh, our special book fair is next week, right, Hannah? February the 18th from
Right.
5:30